Welcome, my dear friends, to a really interesting video, I think. It's an overview of dragon types in VGC / Battlespot doubles, because you haven't been bit till a dragon does it. Anyways, the main reason I'm doing this video is because dragon types are a pretty strong type, and they boast a real high BST stat most of the time because of them being most of the time pseudo-legendaries, and basically their usage has decreased significantly in the last 2 years, I think. That's of course because of the fairy typing, but let's have a look at some example sets and the dragon types as a typing and how they fare in the metagame. But firstly, dragon as a typing. Offensively, it is resisted by steel and immune to fairy. And it is super effective versus only dragons, which, as long as it wasn't immune to fairy, was actually really good, because together with a dragon gem, with the dragon gem in the generation 5 black and white, you would always deal immense amount of damage with a Draco Meteor, especially coming off that 130th base special attack that Latios has. So even steel types would take a significant amount of damage. But now that immune fairy can just switch in and can just super effectively hit dragons, it really made dragons take a hit, and how as far as viability goes. Now defensively, dragons resist grass, fire, electric and water. This is really huge because these are some really commonly seen types and dragon is a really interesting defensive typing. Now unfortunately, dragons are weak to dragons themselves, ice and as well as fairy. Now dragon is kind of like ice in the sense that, ice is in the sense kind of like steel. Steel is a huge defensive typing, but ice is a huge offensive typing, but vice versa isn't really the same. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Anyways, that's as far as typing goes for dragons. Now, how do dragons fare in the modern metagame? In today's metagame, that is. I pulled up the top 50 Pokémon usage statistics from Season 5, which is the current season we're battling in, and it does not look all that well for dragon types. Look at the sheer amount of... firstly, let's have a look at where are the dragon types that are being used, and there are only 3 dragon types being used. At 31st place is Hydreigon, at 20th place is Garchomp, and at 15th place is Salamence. And interestingly enough, as we will later get to know, these are all used for their secondary stab and not their primary stab dragon. Salamence, most of the time, 97% of the time, is actually Mega Salamence and is using those flying type attacks. Probably next to Pelipper, probably the best flying type user ever. Next, and Talonflame back in Gen 6. Garchomp is here mostly to use Earthquake, although Landorus T kind of outclasses this with a higher attack stat and being able to levitate. Also, but Garchomp has the advantage of having that 102 speed, but we'll talk about that later. Also, Hydreigon is mostly used because of the Darkinium Z Dark Pulse, that black hole eclipse, which makes it really good against the common Trick Room setters like Cresselia and... who else do we have here? Gardevoir, I guess. Which, although Gardevoir is neutrally hit by Dark Pulse, it really takes a lot of damage by that black hole eclipse. Now, how does the metagame counter these dragons though? There are an immense amount of fairy and steel types. All in all, there are 17 fairy and steel types that basically soak up those dragon type attacks and either wall them or KO them in return. This is huge because dragons used to be the top used Pokemon, or at least very high on the usage stat, especially Garchomp. and Salamence as well. Hydreigon was a top contender, and who would not? Let's not forget about Latios. Latios with their Dragon Champ Draco Meteor, KOing almost everyone, and making sure that your metagame is heavily, especially defensive, and not physically defensive. Anyways, now one interesting thing I think is the fact that there is only one Ice type that isn't a part Fairy type like Ninetales Alola to deal with Dragon types. Yeah, in this one is Abomasnow at place 47. It's interesting that there is only Ninetales and Abomasnow to deal with Dragon types as without resisting it. Well, Ninetales does resist it or is immune to it, but Abomasnow doesn't. And thirdly or fourthly, what I noticed is there are a whole lot of Pokemon that use Ice Beam as an on-stab option as coverage for Ice Punch to basically check Dragon types, but also Ground types, I guess, for Landorus team. But these are also options that whittle down Dragon types heavily. So the metagame isn't really looking good for Dragon types, but how can you shake up the metagame by using Dragon types? Now I've taken note of 10 notable Dragon types and wrote down their item choices, their highlight item choices, their best natures for them, as well as some move pool highlights. So let's have a look. Firstly, I want to take a look at Garchomp, who was lingering in the back of the presentation for the longest time now. Garchomp gets 2 abilities, Rough Skin and Sandwell, and has an amazing stat distribution. It's almost perfect. He has a 108 HP stat, coupled with 95 defenses and 85 special defense. This is really good bulk. It can take unstabbed Ice Beams if EV'd properly. Also, it boasts a 102 speed stat, which is just above the super competitive 100 speed tier. Lastly, it comes with a really nice 130 base attack stat, which is nothing to laugh at. Now, what are the top item choices for Garchomp? I've gone to BattleSpot statistics and also my own choices for items, and these are the top contenders for Garchomp. Groundium C is coming out on top, the most used item. By the way, these items aren't by viability or sorted by viability or usage anyways, but I just thought Groundium C needed to be on top because it is the top choice for Garchomp. Being able to circumgo the grassy terrain, as well as forgo the fact that you don't always have someone levitating next to you. Next up, we have Life Orb, which is also really good if you just want to boost your damage output from all of the Euro attacks. Choice Scarf and Band or mostly Choice Scarf is an item used mostly in VGC 17. And Assault Vest is also something that came up in VGC 17, although I've seen people use it in VGC 15 as well. But Assault Vest really gained popularity in the last metagame that it was played in. Focus Sash and Yache Berry are basically the same item, guarantee you a super effective hit, mostly from ice types, and you can retaliate back with, I don't know, a Rock Slide or Stone Edge to KO those pesky ice types. Lumberry is also a choice that has gone down in viability, or not just viability but also in popularity, because there aren't as many Will-O-Wisp users as there were back in the day. Mainly Rotom, that has gone down in viability, I think, quite significantly. Now, natures are mostly Jolly or Adamant. You hardly ever see any special Garchomp or naive Garchomps, but yeah, those are also viable options, but I think you're better off with a Jolly or Adamant nature. Now, move pool highlights are definitely Earthquake, Dragon Claw, Poison Jab. These are the most used items. attacks. Although Dragon Claw has gone down in popularity due to Misty Surge, as has the usage of Dragon types as a whole, thanks to that Misty Surge ability. Fire Fang is also there an option in case you don't want, in case you want to hit Celesteela for some damage, because it obviously is immune to Earthquake, right? So, and then we have the old but gold combination of Edgequake, Rock Slide, and Earthquake. Really good, I think. Also, one thing I really want to bring back somehow is Substitute Garchomp. Substitute Garchomp, especially combined with Sand Whale and being in sand, is actually one of the things that are the most frustrating. It is incredible. Anyways, and Swords Dance has really picked up some momentum in this last metagame, in this last VGC 17, and you've probably never seen as many Swords Dance Garchomps as in this last VGC 17 metagame anywhere else, I think. Yeah, that's as far as Garchomp goes. Let's have a look at another dragon, the Latios, which has been the king of VGC 15, man. It's coupled with a 130 special attack stat and 110 speed, it basically outspeeds everything and was able to nuke everything with a Draco Meteor boosted by Dragon Gem. But of all things, Dragon Gem is gone. Draco Meteor has gone down in base damage output by 10 points, and wouldn't you know, Soldo is now legal, but it doesn't boost special attack and special defense by one stage anymore. It only boosts them by 20%, which is hardly a difference to a life orb. So yeah, I guess that's how you want to roll. If you want to roll with a little more special defense, you go with Soldo. If you want to go with a little more damage, you go with Life Orb. Choice Scarf and Choice Specs are also pretty popular items. Scarf probably coupled with that Ice Beam to pick off those pesky Landorus Therian, which are mostly Scarf. Yeah. Oh, but one thing I always run is Dragonium Z Latios. This is just an absolute powerhouse, man. Absolute powerhouse. Nuking so many Pokemon, man. So many Pokemon. It is incredible. Psychium Z is also a nice option if you have problem dealing with poison types or fighting types. Now what's concerning them, natures is mostly timid or modest. Modest probably when you're Choice Scarf, and timid even if you're not Choice Scarf, because you really need that 110 speed, because there are a lot of Pokemon like Kartana with 109 speed, Ninetales with 108 speed, I think. Also all the Musketeers, which aren't as popular anymore, but still they are here with the 108 speed, Infernape with 108 speed, so you really want to keep your 110 speed, base speed. Move pool as far as move pool highlights go, we've got Draco Meteor or this more safer option Dragon Pulse if you want to stay longer in the game, although I do think Latios is a Pokemon that maybe Draco Meteor's turn 1 switches out and Draco Meteor's again in the late game. So, or Draco Meteor's turn 1 dies and then you go ahead and switch in something that deals better with the monsters that are opposing you. But Dragon Pulse is definitely a safe option. Psychic on Psyshock, depending on your playstyle and how your team fares against Assault Vest users and other especially defensive fighting types, I guess. Or if you wanna hit that Among Us, which is, although I think you would run Psychic instead of Psyshock if you're running against Among Us, because Among Us is mostly there to absorb physical hits. I don't know what that was, sorry. It's mostly here to absorb physical hits, so you're better off with Psychic, which has also 10 more base power. Ice Beam is also a nice option if you're Choice Card to pick off those Landorus. Helping Hand is also an interesting option, like Helping Hand is also an interesting option, like once your Draco Meteor and your special attack drops, but you don't want to switch out because the switch is so obvious. You can just helping hand and help your partner pick up some nifty KOs that he normally wouldn't get, but now it does thanks to the helping hand. Substitute is also nice to circumvent Thunderwave, Icy Wind, speed drops and such. Tailwind, obviously here to boost your speed. You mostly used to lead Hitmon top with Latios, get up that fake out, or probably onto a Cresselia, Tailwind, and then close combat from there to third editor, which is just protected. Ideally just protected. Now Sunny Day is also an interesting option because the rain teams are just running rampant in battle spot doubles right now. So you may want to run Sunny Day on your Latios to counteract those rain teams. But that's up to you. Now here is his sister, Latias. Latias is mostly run on battle spot doubles with the Psychium Z, which I find really interesting because Latias has a little less special attack than Latios does have, and Psychium Z really helps this deficit in special attack to negate that deficit in special attack, thanks to obviously that Psychium Z boosting the base power of psychic type attacks, or at least from one psychic type attack. Now here we've got Citrus Berry or other super berries, which are, what I mean by super berries are the ones that heal 50% of your health. Now these are also very viable options on Latios, since Latios is a little more defensive than Latios is, having that huge 130 base special defense. Yeah, so you probably are sitting around a little longer than Latios is, so you may want to use those berries to sit around a little longer. Soldo is also a little better on Latias than it is on Latios, because Latias does benefit a little more from that 20% boost in special defense. Safety Goggles is also an interesting option if you want to circumgo opposing Amoonguss or what's it called, Volcaronas with who like to Rage Powder. Habanberry is also an item that was used back in the day a little more when Dragon were a little more popular, because what Habanberry allows you to do is, for example, take a Dragon Champ Draco Meteor from Latios, or in today's metagame a Dragonium Z Draco Meteor, and then you can KO him back with the Draco Meteor without having to worry about the speed type. Also Light Clay, like with these defenses, Latias is really, and with this speed and defensive stats, Latias is a really reliable light screen and reflect setter. Now I do know, and I am aware of the fact that Ninetales does this better with Aurora Veil, but I just wanted to list it because it is a nifty option. Now, as far as natures go, Timid and Modest are probably your top priority. What's concerning the natures. Move pool highlights are definitely, again, Dragon Meteor or the more safer option, Dragon Pulse, and I think Dragon Pulse is a little more safe on Latias, because Latias is a Pokemon that sits around for a little longer than Latios. Also, the next Psychic or Psyshock it's again, I think Psychic is a little more viable because the metagame is a little more physically defensive orientated. Now Ice Beam or Icy Wind, both are really good options. I think Icy Wind is a little more supportive, but still does damage from that 110 special attack stat. So you can really run both. Light Screen and Reflect I already explained. Recover and Calm Mind are things I think, I mean, it's obvious that Latias gets them as well, but I think Latias can pull them off a little better. And again, then we have also the 3 supporting options that I already explained with Latios, Sunny Day, Tailwind, and Helping Hand, and then we have got Thunderwave. Now Thunderwave I didn't list on Latios because you can only Thunderwave one Pokemon at a time, right? So you need to sit around for a little longer to speed control the opponent, and that's better done with a Pokemon that has a little more defensive stats than offensive stats. Now Latios does not have bad defensive stats, but I think Latios has just a tad bit better stats in defense, that is. Now here we go, and look at another one of my favorite dragons. Well, they are all my favorite dragons, but yeah. Hydreigon, anyways, has a nice 105 attack stat, which basically goes unused because it just has a better move pool, especially on the special side, and has better special attack. It is in a really awkward speed tier with 97 as a speed tier. Like, it's just too slow for base 100, but it is also a little faster than base 95, which base 95 has become huge because of the rising usage of Arcanine and Tapu Lele being newly introduced. Anyways, as far as item choices go, Darkinium Sea is the most used item on Hydreigon, next to Choice Scarf for Choice Specs, Life Orb, Dragonium Sea, and Haban Berry. Now, Haban Berry and Dragonium Sea were items that I listed there, which aren't really as often used as the other items, but I think they are still worth a mention. Haban Berry already explained with Latias, and Dragonium Sea just to nuke with a Draco Meteor outside of Misty Terrain. Now, as far as natures go, again, timid or modest, because you really want to take advantage of your special attack stat. Move pool highlights, definitely Dark Pulse, because it's the strongest dark type attack that it has, and coupled with the Darkinium Sea. Then Draco Meteor or Dragon Pulse. Dragon Pulse is there if you run a supportive Hydreigon with probably a Tailwind or Taunt, so you want to stay on the field for longer. Although I've noticed that a lot of people forgo the Dragon type stat completely and rather use Earth Power or Flamethrower / Fire Blast. One interesting option I found was Superpower, because it does hit Tyranitar for super effective damage and is better than Earth Power since it circumgoes that special defense raise from sand that Tyranitar gets. Also, Flash Cannon is also an option that people are running on the Battle Spot, but I don't think it's really that good, because you're better off switching into a Steel type than attacking with the Flash Cannon with the Dragon type, a Dragon and Dark type, which gets 1-hit KO by even Draining Kiss. No, it doesn't. It could, probably. Anyways. Yeah, Tailwind is there as a support option as well as Taunt. They are really interesting, they're definitely worth a mention, but mostly go unused since you really want to take advantage of Hydreigon's 125 special attack stat. Next we have probably the most popular, it is the most popular dragon, Salamence. Boasting with that, in supporting that team with Intimidate, and then later on switching its ability to aerialate with its Salamence side items when it's Mega Evolves into Mega Salamence. And basically that's all the Salamence that you're going to face. End of story. Like, there are in VGC, obviously you're facing Choice Scarf for Specs, Dragonium Sea or Assault Vest sets, but on Battle Spot doubles it's a whole nother story. Basically you're facing Salamence, Mega Salamence all of the time if you're facing a Salamence. Now, as far as natures go, Timid, Naive, Adamant, and Trolley are the most used natures. Now, I personally always run Naive with the moves Hyper Voice and Double Edge, as well as Tailwind and Protect, but what you're running is obviously up to you. As I said, move pool highlights Hyper Voice and Double Edge / Return if you want to stay in the game for longer, or if you want to set up your physical attack with Dragon Lance, you can run Return over Double Edge. Draco Meteor is also there as an option to hit opposing dragons, since you're probably the fastest, you're the fastest viable dragon. There is only, I think, Noivern that is faster, and Mega Sceptile that is faster, but they aren't as used as much as Salamence, let's say Salamence is. As well, and Draco Meteor has also gone down in viability since Misty Terrain is, like, Tapu Fini is huge in this metagame, and as well as as well as the decreased usage of opposing dragon types. Now, what you really want to do is maybe put some Flamethrower or Fire Blast on there as a coverage option. Or what I've seen is also Bulldoze / Earthquake. Oh, I made a mistake writing that. Anyways, Bulldoze / Earthquake. Bulldoze is mostly on an Assault Vest set, and here to support your team, coupled with a Metagross that has weakness policy in VGC 17, that is, by the way. And you're basically lowering your opponent's speed, boosting your Metagross with that weakness policy, and setting up a KO next turn, right? Yeah, that's what it is all about. Earthquake are mostly seen on Return and Dragon Dawn sets. Yeah, that's about it. And Boost is also really rarely seen, but it is seen on aforementioned Dragon Dawn sets. Now here comes the OG Dragonite, which has two good abilities, but multi-scale is probably the better because it is unique, and it is mostly coupled with that weakness policy, which is just all over the metagame, man. If you get to see Dragonite, it's probably multi-scale weakness policy. You've probably lost to this in the beginning of XY like 2 or 3 times because you didn't think it was that good because you set up the Dragon Dawns. You Ice Beamed it, it didn't take that much damage thanks to multi-scale, it got its weakness policy and then swept you with extreme speed. But then you learned from it, and then it became less viable. Anyways, that's just a rant. That's just what I think of the set. I think you're better off running multi-scale with something like Lumberry or something. Also, or Choice Band if you wanna extreme speed sweep your opponent, I guess. But Choice Band is mostly a singles thing, I think. Yeah. What is also interesting is Inner Focus with Focus Sash / Yachi Berry, because you're guaranteed to live an Ice Beam, and then you can set up a Tailwind and basically go from there, which is really interesting, and you aren't bothered by Sucker Punch since you can just extreme speed, which is really interesting, I think. Also, you aren't bothered by Fake Out because you have Inner Focus, right? Okay, so as far as natures goes, you probably are Adamant or Jolly, although I think Adamant is more viable over Jolly because you're probably going to use extreme speed, and you don't really need speed to use extreme speed, right? Also, Tailwind is probably on your moveset as well, so Adamant is really the way to go. Other than that, Modest is also a viable option if you're in Rain, and let's talk a little about Rain and Dragonite. Dragonite gets those nice moves called Hurricane and Thunder. Like, these are beneficial in Rain, gaining perfect accuracy, and although Dragonite has only 100 special attacks, that these moves are 120 or 130 base attacks, have a base attack stat or base stat of 130 or 120, I think, or base, maybe they are both 120. I don't remember. I never use Hurricane or Thunder. Anyways, yeah, that's as far as the discussion goes. Now the physical set is a little more potent because Dragonite gets so much more physical type attacks. For example, Extreme Speed, Dragon Claw, Earthquake, Fire Punch. Yeah, that's basically the most viable ones that you're going to face. Now, speaking of Rain, we have the most used dragon in Rain is probably Kingdra, thanks to Swift Swim. Item choices are Dragonium Sea, which is a little less used than Boterium Sea, because Boterium Sea, Hydro Pump, even the Rain is really hard hitting, and you really have only a few counters to this. Other than that, Life Orb, Lumberry and Choice Scarf specs are also viable options. Natures are mostly Modest or Timid. I think Modest is a little better, because you really wanted to boost that damage output from Kingdra, which has although it is decent, it is nothing along the lines of a Hydreigon or a Dragonite, along the lines of a Hydreigon or the Latios, which have 130 or 125 respectively. Move Pool Hiva, it's definitely the Water Stab, Muddy Water Surf and Hydro Pump. Now I would not recommend running Scald, because Scald is just too weak to be listed, and you really want to get off that damage, you know. In those few turns that Rain lasts, you really want to get off that damage. Other than that, you have Draco Meteor and Dragon Pulse at your disposal, Ice Beam. Now Substitute used to be an option coupled with a Lumberry, because you could cure Thunder Wave from an opposing Thunderous, set up a Substitute and basically prevent you from losing your speed thanks to that Thunder Wave from Thunderous, right? But I think Lumberry isn't really that good anymore because Thunderous has gone down in viability, and let's face it, 95 base special attack is not the highest. So you really want to boost your special attack stat somehow with Life Orb or Vorterium Z or Specs even. Disable is also a nice option to cause some shenanigans, especially on Rain Perish Trap teams. Yawn is also a nice option, forcing your opponent to switch out, and then you can Vorterium Z, Hydro Pump them, or Hydro Vortex them in this move called, alright. And also, Kingdra is one of the few viable non-Prankster Quash users because it is just so fast on the Swift Swim. So you can do some real nice shenanigans with Quash and what else, and other things along the lines of that. Now, how do you counter Rain? Most of the time, if you're using a dragon, it's not just Latios and Latios with Sunny Day, it's also Goodra. Goodra with that Assault Vest though, and Sap Zipper ability to also beat those Rain Room teams, which mostly boast they carry a Amoongus to put things to sleep. Anyways, item choices, as I said, Assault Vest. What I found really interesting is that there are people running Choice Band in Goodra, but then I didn't find any physical type moves, any good physical type moves on Goodra, except for maybe Earthquake and Power Whip, and that's it, and Outrage, I guess. But those aren't really the most viable moves on Goodra, I think. Goodra mostly accelerates with Assault Vest, Expert Belt, and Electric Seed. Electric Seed, let me explain. You basically have that 70 defense stat and that 150 special defense stat. Now, coupled with a bold nature and the Electric Seed boost, you have a really high physical defense, you have a really high special defense stat, and then you're basically set to go and just hit things super effectively with that amazing move pool that Goodra gets, and it also has a nice special attack stat of 110. So yeah, that's the trick behind the Electric Seed. Expert Belt is, I think, probably my favorite item, because it allows you to use Protect, and it boosts your damage output without lowering your HP stat by using a Life Orb, right? Because move pool highlights, let's face it, you're probably not going to use a Dragon type attack because just miss the terrain and the sheer amount of variant steel types. So you're better off using Sludge Bomb, Ice Beam, Flamethrower, and Thunderbolt. Some combination of attacks from those, depending on your team, which what coverage it needs. Yeah, Goodra is not here to use his Dragon type attacks, or because it has just had such a good move pool, and Dragon type attacks aren't as popular anymore. That's basically the trick behind Goodra, using its Sludge Bomb, Ice Beam, Flamethrower, Thunderbolt combination, something along the lines of that. Yeah. Now the one interesting Dragon type introduced in this newest generation is definitely Grandpa. It gets the new ability Berserk, which allows it to raise its special attack stat by one stage once it goes below 50% of health. This is really interesting because as long as you aren't lowering your HP stat by recoil below 50%, you're getting that stat, and you can couple that with a Citrus Berry or other Super Berries and basically gain 2 stages of raised attacks, special attack. Now, Grandpa is mostly used with Choice Specs, Life Orb, although I wouldn't recommend Life Orb simply because of that Berserk ability. Although you could also run Sap Zipper and Cloud9 and then you're fine with Life Orb. Now, Assault Vest is also an interesting set, or Misty Seed. Depending on your team, if you have a Tapu Fini on there, you probably want to run Misty Seed because you can just basically use Protect on that set, and Assault Vest would not allow you to Protect. Yeah. Natures, as far as nature goes, quite and Modest are the most used. Quite obviously because you're probably using Grandpa in Trick Room, right? Because it has 36 speed. Yeah. That's basically the trick to Grandpa. He's setting up Trick Room and then going with one of those nifty move pool highlights. Moves. I don't know what that is. Hyper Voice, most used attack because it's a normal dragon type. Really good spread attack, Hyper Voice. Then of course you're going to be resisted by Steel type, so you Grandpa gets Flamethrower and Fire Blast. Now I wouldn't recommend using Breaker Meteor or Dragon Pulse if you're using a Tapu Fini and Mr. Seed on your set, so you probably go with the third move option of Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, or Energy Ball. Energy Ball is really nice against rain teams who are running Mega Swampert, and you can also run Cloud 9 to counteract those rain teams, which are just I can't stress it enough, but rain teams are just running rampant right now. Anyways, now we have one more honorable mention, the one and only that isn't an original dragon type, that Mega Charizard X with that ability Tough Claws. And what I personally didn't know before I made this video was that Mega Charizard X has the same special attack stat as physical attack stat, which is just mind-blowing. I didn't even know that. But the thing is that Tough Claws only boosts physical or contact moves. So maybe Grossnot, I don't know. I don't think Grossnot is actually boosted by Tough Claws, but it could be. No, it is. Right. Yeah. Well, as far as item choice goes, you can't really choose because you have to run Charizard X. Natures are mostly Adamant or Charlie. No big discussion about those there. Now moveful highlights, Flare Blitz or Fire Punch. I personally would always run Flare Blitz because you should really need that damage output from Mega Charizard, and Flare Blitz gives you that. Dragon Claw has gone down in the usage because, well, there is Heatran for 1, and 2 there is Mr. Terrain being used widely. Earthquake is therefore a better coverage option. Dragon Dance is also really popular on Mega Charizard X, but so is Tailwind. Will-O Wisp and Flame Charger are mostly a singles thing, but I think, or I could see them also work in doubles. Anyways, after this long monologue of mine, or soliloquy, whatever you want to call it, I wanna know what you think about Dragon types. Are Dragon types still a viable choice on a meta-relevant team? Have fairies ruined dragons? Let me know in the comments. My name is Glyzkore. I hope you had fun and were informed about Dragon types and hopefully use Dragon types in the future on your team. I hope you had your fair share of fun. I know I had mine. I'll see you now guys next time. Have a nice day. Goodbye.